Om Brahmanandam Param Sukhadam Kevalam Jnana Murtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasya Lakshyam Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami Om. Adorations to Sadguru, who is Brahman, the giver of supreme bliss, embodiment of pure consciousness, one without a second, vast as the ether, infinite, eternal, beyond the three gunas and their modifications, the supreme preceptor. Yoga Vasistha, in Utpatti Prakarana, section 111, profound insight is being given into process that leads to enlightenment. And there are three main points in this process. Manonash, Vasanakshaya, Tattva Jnana. Manonash, when a mind is not shaken by raga dvesha, the raga is like and dislike. The mind is not shaken by prosperity and adversity, by cold and by heat, speaking allegorical language. Living in the world with all types of possibilities, you always know that things cannot be always wonderful according to the choice of your mind. And if you have profound insight of that, thank God. Because it is that allows your soul not to stay stuck with the world. But anyway, that state is called Manonash. And its characteristic quality is serenity. How you face challenging situations. And the great ideal is presented in the Ramayana by Rama himself. His father, King Dasharatha, gives him the great news. He is going to be the successor to the throne. And having received the good news, Rama does not show any special elation. People will start jump and dance if they win a lottery. He is being declared the ruler over the whole world of his time. And yet he remains completely calm, relaxed, serene. Prasannatami yanagata abhishekata tathana mamle banavasa dukkata. So that prasannata, his cheerfulness, remained the same when Abhishek, that he was going to be coronated. And very next day, maybe 1 or 2 days more, he is informed by his stepmother, Kaikeyi, and of course, same Dasharatha, under the pressure of Kaikeyi, tells Rama that you are banished for 14 years. And Rama listens to it. People look at his face. All are shocked who will hear it. But Rama, as if nothing happened, he simply says, what a wonderful opportunity. I will have the great opportunity of satsanga instead of being in this politics. he remains completely same. That's the highest ideal of Manonash. And that's what one goes on working for. Prasannatam yanagatabhishekata tathana mamle banavasa dukkata mukhambuja shri raghunandanasya me sadastu sa manjula mangala prada. That face of Rama is the source of all tender, auspicious developments in your life. Just like you look at a tree, and how does the tree appear more beautiful? By little beautiful shoots coming out. And look again, a blossom is coming out. Look again, it makes a sound, pluck. Manjula Mangala Sada. Each development is more tender, more delightful, more thrilling. And that's what happens if you allow your mind to come to that state, Manonash. And the second thing happens in the next level, Vasanakshaya. Your mind cannot be brought to perfect order unless your unconscious has been cleaned up and purified. So Vasana relates to unconscious impressions. So that process that stage is called Vasanakshaya. Vasanas work like clouds. If clouds are opaque, you don't see the sun. So if when Vasana becomes murky, full of anger, hate, etc., that Vasana doesn't allow you to enjoy who you are, what your resources are. And so that's Vasanakshaya, that opaque cloud allows now a little, some pores open up for the sun to pass through. So the moment that stage comes, Vasanakshaya has started. All subtle desires, they begin to dissolve. And the more they dissolve, the more joyous you are. First stage, you look at the cloud that allows the sun to pass through. Now, the cloud that was shutting the sun and creating a source of terror. Now the same cloud has become a source of inspiration. You want to look at it again and again. And that cloud creates a rainbow. And you see even a swan soaring up. And you want yourself to become a swan. I'm giving a poetic word. That's picture of Vasanakshaya. And as Vasanakshaya continues, there's a revelation. The sun becomes highlighted. Sun alone is, you can come to realize, all behind all illumination, sun is reality. That's called Tattva Jnana. So, Manonash, Vasanakshaya, Tattva Jnana. These are the three steps. Putting another way, Mala, Vikshepa and Avarana. Gross impurities are called Mala. Subtle impurities, Vasanas, create Vikshepa, distractions of the mind. And the last one is the veil of ignorance called Avarana. So in sadhana process, you go through these 3 points. And if when you study it, you have no choice but to read them 1, 2, 3. But when you actually experience it, all the three are one and the same in three aspects. If you have Manonash, automatically you couldn't have that unless Vasana has been purified. And Vasana wouldn't be absolutely purified unless there is revelation. So all the three go together. But while attending on your understanding about all this, it opens up three stages, 1, 2, 3. Just like with yoga, karma yoga, bhakti yoga, dhyana yoga, jnana yoga. So a beginner will say, well, let me first finish karma yoga, then I will go into bhakti yoga. But that is not so. All yogas go together. If you want to be perfect in karma, you have become perfect in all yogas. So I will not go into too much detail in that direction. Section 111 of Utpatti Prakarana. The idea this is mine constitutes the body of the mind. It's allegorical language. Your mind continues to maintain its gross state on the basis of ahamata and mamata. Ahamata, this is me. This is mine. That's the subtle nucleus behind the formation of your conditioned mind. How do you negate it? This is not mine. Allow your mind to sustain a devotional vision. All that you do is not the credit doesn't go to you as your ego. Credit goes to God. And the more you discover it, the more you are melting, greater is your inner joy. The more ego gets inflated, your happiness wanes, diminishes. You become more involved with happiness, not happiness. All that you are thinking, how can I hop? And every hop is risky. So, the subtle point has to be understood. Me and mine, constant attention, this is me, this is mine. That will not allow your mind to enjoy serenity. So therefore, when you do not entertain the erroneous thoughts, the me and mine that operates through your mental process, it operates in the absence of vichar. Vichar means thinking, in the absence of your understanding. If you begin to exercise a real understanding within yourself, then all your attainments in this world, no matter what you attain, you will not credit it to your ego. You credit it to God. And that way your diminishing the ego is not your loss. If inflated head looks bigger and bigger, That's your loss. It resumes its normal feature, that's your gain. This subtle point has to be understood. And it is so clear, an error that shines before you and don't recognize it. You buy up a big building and call it your house. You look at it, this is my house. You never think that house belonged to so many people. When you kick the bucket, that house will belong to many. Continue to be. And the house had gone through so many changes. So all that doesn't enter your mind. All that, oh, wonderful. This is me, this is mine. You're starving your intellect. Looks amazed. And each time if you look at the intellect, you close the door on it. Dandu rang me bhang. I'm enjoying. Rang me bhang means when you enjoy in a nice festivity, things are going wonderful. And suddenly some strange creature screeches. Rang me bhang. There's interruption in the joyous celebration. So mind-based experiences are like kind of good celebration. We're always thinking of how things were, how you are, how we're going to be, wonderful. But when we begin to listen to Yoga Vasistha, Ragbe, nothing exists. Nothing belongs to you. You are not the mind, not the body. And while you are thinking the rang me bhang, all the joy has become broken, there is another news breaks. You have the biggest joy. You are Parabrahman, the Absolute, Satchidananda. But in order to inform you who you are, you have to be shaken. Sometimes good news mother has to give to the child, and the child has to be shaken from his sleep. When you do not entertain the erroneous thoughts of I-ness and mindness, the mind is scattered like clouds by the wind of wisdom. The mind that is, even a cloud, is nothing but moisture come together on sand particles. So if you analyze a cloud, it doesn't have any identity. Especially you bring a flashlight that gives warmth to the cloud. I'm joking. You bring the warmth, and the cloud will simply go on disappearing. So cloud has no basis, no reality behind it. It's just moisture. Similarly, your mind has no reality in itself. It's a bundle of desires, unfulfilled thoughts. They have come to form a cloud that's called mind. And whenever you really relax, you are going beyond the mind to a certain degree. While you are within the mind, I'm speaking allegorical language. In other words, as long as the cloud of mind is obstructing the view of your inner self, you don't have real peace. And in daily life also, the real satisfaction and real relaxation comes when you see your mind not worrying about anything. It is the unconquered mind that leads to great fear. There comes a time when people do not have confidence. How will their mind act or feel? They lose control over themselves. And that again is, as long as you have not been disciplined by satsanga, etc., that's the type of experience everybody has in relation to their mind. You may say, I'm very peaceful, I'm quiet, but wait, in a provocative situation, all this suddenly changes. Because you have no idea how will your mind act. But when you have Manonash, you don't have that problem. That's a goal to be attained. The terrible afflictions of the world arise like mirages in desert sands. This agitated mind brings about lots of apparent reality, lots of imaginations to understand properly. Just like you watch a cinema show. The cinema show is nothing but projections. Projections, frame after frame, projected on the screen. And all those projections create a special drama. Mind-based experience is that type of experience, is a kind of a drama. Simple illustration, in your dream. So many things happen in your dream, and while dreaming, your experience is very real. No matter if you are dreaming and if your car crashes and you see even your fingernail broken, it's kind of a real experience while dreaming. Only when you wake up, then you realize nothing happened. Similarly, all experiences led by your karmas are a kind of a dream. The reality within you has nothing to do with this world. And that reality passes before your eyes. Everything that you are working upon, everything you are relying upon, all this is a matter of a certain duration. Beyond that, it all will not be there, not a grain. So therefore, what should be your goal? The goal should be, no matter how much you see a cinema show and leading you to suspenseful situations, the reality screen is always untouched, unaffected, ready to create countless shows. So don't go show after show, nor should you go show within show. But out of this whole show process, quoting from the Yoga Vasistha, Kalpantah pavanavantu chaikatvam arnavah tapantu dvadasha vidivya vitya nasti nirmanasah kshati. Even if the winds of destruction were to blow, this is the highlight of climax of Manonash. Even if the winds of destruction were to blow, the oceans were to overflow, and 12 suns were to blaze forth in the sky. One sun is sufficient to keep. Suppose 12 suns suddenly began to pour down lots of heat and fire. For him who has vanquished the mind, there is absolutely no loss. Seems like a big thing. Watch a cinema show. Big storm comes in the show and calamity has come and everything has been destroyed. And the screen, neither green nor red. Section 112. This furthermore, insight is being given into the vasanas of the mind. In order to control your mind, you must understand you are dealing with three levels: mind, subconscious impressions, and the root cause, ignorance. But now stepping up to gain insight into the role of subtle desires, vasanas. And that's a very important point for aspirants. Sometimes you advance profoundly. Your vasanas have brought about a higher level within yourself. But in your conscious state, you may not be aware of it. You may interpret you are going down and down because previously you were not sensitive. Now you are more sensitive. Sarvam dukkham. Previously, few little things were source of pain. More sensitivity, everything is source of pain. Simple point to understand. Don't evaluate your progress on the basis of what your mind says. Because the mind is hiding in the unconscious. So therefore, patience is needed. You do your japa, etc., and you go on saying, I've done so much, and now what am I getting? But the thing is, how much your japa is holding inner strength, and how much is planning to do for you in a miraculous way, that you are not aware. So therefore, with that type of understanding, life has to be lived with patience, not with shallow type of nature. Shiva Vasistha said, O Rama, greater the intensity of desire, greater is the attraction felt by the mind towards objects of the world. Objects of the world, you are seeing so many things, it doesn't matter to you. But when the desire develops towards any object, now you look for that object, ignore everything else. And if you go on looking for it day by day, the desire becomes much stronger. In the beginning, you simply look for it and go on. Later, you will not live your day peacefully unless you have looked into it. Much later, not only you are looking at it, it is looking at you also. Situation becomes more complex. Simple point. Objects have no value. If at all, they are all Brahman. All is just the same. They are all void. But led by your desires, the relationship develops out of this big ocean of names and forms. The wave begins to assert, these waves are mine. And those are mama waves, those are papa waves, those are beautiful grandchildren waves. They're waving. All this is not to, it's not meant, not to understand, it's not meant to make yourself dry-hearted towards your relatives and friends. Rather, it's meant to understand that whatever love you experience towards others, its source is God. And God is the reality behind all those whom you love. So shifting the angle, that becomes your subtle process. Otherwise, people follow teachings in a literal way and they become completely confused. You tell them, detach from the world, be attached to God only. And you start walking by, see beautiful peacock. And say, oh, remember, detach. Look away. Don't fall for this beautiful feature. And yogi will try to understand. Instead, when you find something impressive, look at God. God is everywhere, but now it's shining before me. Same joyous feeling that you develop towards relatives, friends, etc. That joyous feeling should not limit itself to how do the people look, because they are my sons, my daughters, therefore they are wonderful. Not in that way. But because God is expressing through them, it's God has given you opportunity of experiencing divine love. It is God that makes people shine. You are not the author of the eyes of others. Life in everyone moves in a mysterious way. I will not go into detail of that. In other words, that becomes a profound movement in one's life if you are more nourished by satsanga and follow Godward movement. You begin to relate yourself to God through every relationship. Matri Devo Bhava, that's what the teachers teach. A child is told, see God in your mother. We should reverse it also. To mother, see God in your child. And that doesn't mean that since you see God in the child, just ignore the child. You are already all permeating God. Godward movement, it requires all types of sentiments, motherly sentiments. All types of sentiments. Behind all sweetness of your sentiment is God, source is God. And that mind has to go on understanding. Then that's what we call detach and attach. At the same time, everything is based on practical. If you are facing a lesser level of evolution, spiritual evolution, then it becomes necessary. Say, for example, you are seeing some type of association that will tempt you and bring a downfall. Then move away. Don't start practicing Vedanta. Just as heat is the natural property of fire, so too restlessness and fickleness are the natural properties of the mind. The magical potency of Maya, which abides in consciousness, has assumed the form of the mind, and the mind in turn has created the illusion of the world process. Simple point. See, all this world experience is based on thought waves of the mind. The moment you bring your mind to stillness, just like when you are in deep sleep, the world moves away. The moment you wake up from deep sleep, for few seconds, your mind is relaxed but begins to wonder, what is all this? In that wonder, suddenly ego jumps in. And you feel relaxed. Oh, I left some job undone yesterday. Now I have to complete it. And the whole world rushes in. So you can see how the mind, how does it bring the whole world? And whole world moves away, led by the same mind when it relaxes. Your goal, your reality is not dependent upon mind. Projections in a cinema show are not dependent. The screen is not dependent upon those projections. Screen doesn't complain, I'm not having those wonderful projections. So when you have a profound revelation that I am is like the screen, unaffected by all that the mind goes on projecting, all the illusion of past, present, future. Once that has become a profound experience, then that's called liberation. And as a result of it, you face your life, pass through all practical realities, nothing changes. If you have been 5 feet, with enlightenment, don't get into 6 feet. Nothing changes. But what changes is your inner awareness. And that inner awareness of yours cannot be seen by others. So it is not a matter of display. Look, I have attained it, you have not. Here's the banner. Mind is ever driven by its vasanas. When it stops running after the objects of the world, the vasanas melt into nothingness, and one experiences infinite joy. Mind is a knot of consciousness, an unconscious matter. When you analyze the mind, it's a blend of consciousness. Consciousness is like the screen. Unconscious matter refers to projections. In spiritual literature, you will be constantly hearing about self and not self. All your personality is a blend of self plus not self. But to understand what that naughty self is, not that naughty self, based on three knots I have described. Avidya, ignorance; kama, subtle desires; karma, involvement in ego, involvement in action. You are bonded in three ways. Bonded, fettered by your physical body due to karmas. That's one knot. You are bonded with your mind through your subtle desires. That's the second knot. And you are bonded with illusories, with illusion, the source of illusion called ignorance. That's called avidya. And these are all described as knots, granthis. And when you stay gripped by granthis, that's called naughty. If you develop the knowledge that vasanas arising from the heart are illusory, you will be able to destroy them and thereby control the mind. What does that imply? If you were to inquire into who am I, and if you were to understand that your I is not dependent upon your mind or on your body. You go to dream, body is not there. But in your dream you exist, that means body is not you. And when you go to deep sleep, mind moves away and you are not affected. The mind is not you. So when you begin to develop and the causal state of your personality, you move away from causal state, from sleep to waking, that causal state also is not you, because you are not permanently there. You are constantly shifting in the three stages. The three stages are variable: sleep, dream, waking. None of them can be considered you. So, if that type of understanding enters your heart, that I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not the intellect, I am Satchidananda. Again, in the beginning, again, these all words are being said. But when you begin to understand, the understanding is entering your heart. So in a heart-based experience, you don't allow yourself to be shaken. Simple way to understand. You are experiencing a kind of a terrible dream, but suddenly it dawns upon you it is a dream. Now your heart becomes relaxed. The dream continues and doesn't matter. In the same way, living your life, how it lives, that don't worry about. But heart stage, bring God in your heart. A Godward touch of divine love, which ultimately gives way to the highest awareness, Aham Brahmas. I am, that am I. Bring that type of movement in your heart, a heart-based awareness. And that's what we mean by you. Vasanakshaya, you are not shaken by vasanas. Because all the vasanas that arise from your heart are illusory. O Rama, first renounce the vasanas of sense enjoyments. Then renounce the vasanas based upon the vision of separateness. All this easily said. But what does it imply? First, your Vairagya, dispassion, should develop towards the pleasures of the senses. Try to understand the pleasure is not, happiness is not really coming from objects. You are attributing that happiness which belongs to your own heart. Atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. The statement of the Upanishad. All things become pleasant and dear because of the self. The self, that is what you actually love. The self within you. Other than the self has no meaning for you. Other than the self, nothing exists either. But that self, through Maya, has become experience of multiplicity. You are actually experiencing yourself. Let me give you a broader way to understand. Think of your iPad and give a little ego to the iPad. Now the iPad says, look, all this world is within me. How wonderful. I am the source of being the dearest. But all that the iPad is speaking about, all that doesn't exist. You may say, well, they do exist. But I'm giving you a simile. It doesn't exist within your iPad. You talk to the person through the iPad. And the person also feels that you are talking. But in reality, the person is not with you. What I'm leading you to understand, a human experience, all your experiences are on the basis of your mind and your nervous system. Your mind is the pad, and nervous system is the eye. So all experiences are through this iPad. It's not a big thing to understand. That's the most practical reality. Take away a few little brain centers and the whole iPad of yours becomes bad. Should it be defined by your iPad? If you are defined by your iPad, then go on buying new iPads. Go on incarnating. But if you have developed mature understanding, not the real me is not how the mind interprets. The real me is not dependent upon the mind and mind-based illusions. That understanding has to develop. And that develops by your practice of integral yoga in daily life. The destruction of vasanas is brought about by not thinking of the objects. Not thinking of the objects means not giving value to objects. You look at objects, be amused by it, but understand there is a reality behind the object. Object itself is not the reality. So if that type of understanding develops, the vasanas, subtle desires in your mind to acquire objects, to go after certain attainment in the world of time and space, all that becomes illusion. The deep-rooted movement is realizing who am I. That becomes your focus. And if that becomes, then that's the process of Vasanakshaya. Your vasanas completely begin to melt away. O Rama, whatever objects the mind desires, and whatever method it adopts to attain them, if you know them to be illusory, you will be able to renounce the vasanas that keep the mind agitated and distracted. These are very profound writings, so I have to give you a subtler meaning, simpler meaning. Simpler meaning is, if you want to work upon your vasanas, first point, move away from rajasic, tamasic activity to sattvic activity. Move away from being abnormal to a normal level. Be good, do good. That type of movement. And as you advance, learn the art of not holding on to negativity within yourself by practice of 3S. Suppress. If negative thought is coming of anger, push it, don't show it through your personality. Substitute, create an affirmation that I am growing in the image of Buddha. I'm Buddha's child, not a Buddha, not a simpleton. And watch how a negative energy simply disappears as if it was never there. That's the process of allowing the vasanas to go on changing until comes a profounder vision, intuitive revelation, I am Aham Brahmasmi. That experience comes along with your samadhi level. And with this I'm going to conclude. We'll continue tomorrow. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.